Welcome, my dear friend, to Beauty and the Beast, a gentle journey of love, kindness, and the quiet magic that glows like moonlight. Before we begin, I'd love to invite you to take a moment to prepare a space that feels warm, peaceful, and beautifully still just for you. Find a comfortable place on your bed. Pull your soft blanket a little closer and allow your body to begin relaxing slowly and effortlessly. If you can, dim the lights, letting the room grow softer, calmer, as if a great, tender night sky is wrapping its arms around you. Let the quiet settle all around. Let unnecessary sounds fade away until it's just you, resting in a safe space that welcomes you into the rhythm of peace. Take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out, as if you're releasing every weight you've been carrying today. Now, there is nothing you need to worry about, nothing you need to achieve. Just listen to the story and let your mind drift. Like a leaf touching the surface of a still lake, the story will begin soon, with all the tenderness meant especially for you. But before we start, I invite you to soften your whole body, little by little, slowly, quietly. Lie down or sit in a position that feels just right for you, letting your back be supported, your shoulders rest, and your whole body loosen without holding on to anything. Gently take a deep, soothing breath in, letting cool, calming air fill your chest. And exhale slowly, as if releasing every worry from your day, letting them drift, dissolve, disappear. Allow your shoulders to melt, your arms to loosen like warm rivers, your hands to grow lighter, warmer, still. Soften your chest, soften your belly, letting your breath flow naturally, quietly, like a breeze gliding across a quiet lake. Move down to your legs, your thighs, your knees, your calves, all becoming weightless, gentle, like clouds resting on the sky. There is nothing you need to do. Just give your body permission to rest. Give your mind permission to quiet. Give your heart permission to soften. With every breath, you fall a little deeper into peace. And now, as your body grows soft, light, and settled, we will gently step into tonight's sleep story together. Part 1. A gentle family and a kind-hearted girl. Once upon a time, in a bustling city that still held on to its old, peaceful charm, there lived a good-hearted merchant, gentle, honest, and deeply respected. He had traveled through many lands, crossed countless seas, and faced sudden storms that rose without warning. Yet through hard work and unwavering integrity, he built himself a thriving fortune. His home stood at the end of a tree-lined boulevard, where the leaves swayed softly each time a breeze wandered through. The gate was crafted from wrought iron, shaped like flowers, and on either side bloomed roses in spring and lavender that perfumed the air at the beginning of summer. The merchant had 6 children, 3 sons and 3 daughters, each with their own distinct spirit. Strong, tender, cheerful, or dreamy, but among them all, the youngest possessed a presence so gentle that anyone who met her felt their heart grow lighter. Her name was Beauty. Her loveliness did not come only from her delicate features, her eyes clear as a morning lake, or the warm smile that seemed to comfort anyone who saw it. Her beauty came from within, from a pure heart, a softly graceful way of living, and a soul that always leaned toward kindness. Her 2 older sisters, however, were quite different. They adored exquisite dresses, grand balls, and the admiration of others. Each day they spent hours gazing into mirrors, discussing the nobleman they dreamed of marrying. But Beauty was nothing like that. She cherished quiet mornings when soft sunlight filtered through her window, the sound of little birds singing near the balcony, the pleasure of opening a fresh page in a book, and the fragrance of newly brewed herbal tea. She did not long for luxury or fame. She wished only for a peaceful life filled with love. In their spacious home, Beauty was always the first to notice when the flowers in the living room had wilted, when the elderly gardener looked a little tired, or when her father returned after a long day and needed a warm drink. Her gentleness was like an autumn breeze. Wherever it touched, the world became softer. During family dinners, Her sisters excitedly spoke of glamorous gatherings they imagined. The brothers discussed their work, and their father recounted his journeys. Beauty listened quietly, adding a few thoughtful words that made the room feel warmer. Sometimes, the merchant would look at his youngest daughter and feel his heart soften. Among his 6 children, Beauty always reminded him of the early morning sun, warm enough, bright enough, and peaceful in a way that soothed the soul. On pleasant days, Beauty would sit alone in a wicker chair on the porch with a book on her lap. A gentle breeze brushed through her hair, carrying the sweet scent of the garden. The moment was so serene that anyone passing by would pause, simply to soak in the pure, quiet beauty before them. The home, the family, the laughter, it all looked like a perfect painting. But soon, like a silent cloud moving across a clear blue sky, misfortune began to unfold. Part 2. A sudden loss and a simpler life. The peaceful life they once knew changed suddenly on a morning no one expected. The first rays of late summer sunlight were touching the windows when the merchant returned home with a troubled expression. His eyes, usually filled with confidence, now carried a deep, silent worry. His children sensed it immediately. In the living room, still faintly scented with herbal tea, he placed a sealed letter from the harbor upon the table. With a heavy voice, he told his family that all of his ships, everything he had built over a lifetime, had been lost to a violent storm at sea. The valuable cargo, the hopes carried across oceans, the plans for the future, all had sunk into the vast waters. The news settled over the room like a thick fog. Beauty's sisters were stunned, then burst into tears, terrified that their elegant lifestyle would disappear. Her brothers questioned their father anxiously. And Beauty, she quietly stepped closer and held her father's trembling hand. That hand had once been so strong, signing important contracts, guiding the family through prosperous years. Now it shook like a leaf in the wind. Beauty didn't speak much. She simply whispered, "Please don't worry, Father. We still have each other. There will be a way." Her voice was soft as breath, yet somehow strong enough to steady a weary heart. But reality still had to be faced. With no house, no servants, and no fortune, the family moved to a small cottage in the countryside, far from the life they once knew. On the day they left, Beauty's sisters lamented endlessly, mourning every mirror, every gown, every piece of their old world. Beauty, however, did not despair. She looked up at the wide blue sky above the unfamiliar road and quietly told herself, "Where my family is, that is home." The new cottage was simple, a moss-covered roof, stone steps worn by time, and a tiny garden by the porch. Yet the moment Beauty arrived, she felt a strange sense of peace. Life ahead would surely be more difficult, but something about this place felt warm, like a small promise that it could become a true home if they tended to it with care. The early days were not easy. Her father and brothers learned to till soil and grow vegetables, work they had never done before. Her sisters struggled even more. Sweeping the yard made them sigh dramatically. Washing clothes made them complain for hours, and they blamed fate for their suffering. But Beauty was different. She woke before sunrise each day, when the soft light wrapped the world like a thin golden veil. She swept the house, prepared breakfast, picked vegetables, and often hummed a gentle tune to warm her own spirit. Her voice, light as flowing water, was barely loud enough for anyone else to hear. Yet it made the little kitchen feel brighter. She never felt deprived. In fact, she discovered a quiet freedom in these simple tasks. She learned to knead dough for bread, to tend the flowers by the porch, and whenever she felt tired, she paused and took a deep breath, as if letting her soul sit down to rest for a moment. Sometimes, while the family napped at midday, Beauty sat alone beneath a tree, letting sunlight spill through the leaves onto her skin. She opened a book she had brought from the city, feeling the breeze run through her hair, letting her heart drift into a peaceful stillness, quiet, yet never lonely. Her father would watch her from afar, feeling a warmth rise in his chest. In the hardest moments, it was Beauty who shone with quiet strength. She was like a candle in the dark, not dazzling, but steady enough to guide others through uncertainty. And it was during these seemingly calm days that fate began preparing the next turning point. A letter, a ship, and a single rose, all waiting to lead Beauty toward the encounter that would change her life forever. Part 3. A gift from the sea and a little rose of hope. Life in the small countryside cottage slowly found its rhythm. Each day drifted by as gently as a leaf falling to the ground, quiet, unhurried, accompanied only by the morning birds and the soft wind brushing through the trees. Beauty continued waking before dawn, when dew still clung to the leaves and the sun had yet to brighten the sky. She worked with a quiet joy, as though these simple tasks were nourishing the peace within her. Then one morning, while the family was preparing their modest breakfast, a knock echoed through the cottage. A messenger stood on the doorstep, bowing slightly as he handed Beauty's father a carefully sealed letter. No one knew that this tiny envelope carried with it a thin beam of hope, a gentle light strong enough to stir the weary heart of a father who had been carrying too many burdens. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it. His eyes widened. Words on the page seemed to glow. One of his ships, long believed lost to the storm, had returned safely to port. Months of hardship, nights heavy with worry, mourning all they had lost. All of it softened in that single moment. Beauty's sisters burst into excited squeals. They imagined new gowns, extravagant parties, and the grand mirrors they once adored. Their eyes shimmered like flames newly lit. The merchant inhaled deeply, taking in the breath of renewed hope. Then, with a voice that had not sounded this alive in a very long time, he asked, "What would you like me to bring home for you?" The elder sisters didn't hesitate. They listed one luxurious item after another: silk dresses, sparkling jewelry, elegant scarves. Their voices rose with the excitement of revived dreams. When it was Beauty's turn, she simply smiled. Her eyes reflected the softness of the early morning sun, clear, warm, impossibly gentle. In a quiet voice, she said, "Father, if it's possible, would you bring me a rose?" The room fell silent. Of all things in the world, Beauty asked only for a simple rose, something nearly impossible to find in their rural surroundings, and not much easier to find in the city during this season. Her father gazed into her calm, sincere eyes. There was no desire for grandeur, no hidden longing, just a small, honest joy in the thought of a single flower. He cupped her shoulder and said softly, "I will try. If I can find one, I promise I'll bring it home." Beauty nodded. Her smile bloomed like a quiet flower, warm, peaceful, enough to steady the entire room. When her father returned to the city, the skies had begun to rain. A thin curtain of water draped over the land, softening every outline. He wrapped himself in an old cloak and traveled alone, carrying a fragile hope in his tired heart. Would the ship hold any valuable goods? Would there be enough to ease his children's worries? Even a little. But the truth was harsher than he imagined. Though the ship had reached the harbor, the cargo had been claimed, spoiled, or spent on legal disputes. The little that remained wasn't enough to cover the accumulated fees. The small door of hope gently closed once again. Standing on the gray, misty docks, the merchant's shoulders sagged. It wasn't the loss of riches that hurt most. It was realizing he couldn't even bring home the single rose Beauty had wished for. He began his journey back in the steady rain, across wide fields, through whispering forests, into the deepening dusk. The ground grew slippery. The cold crept beneath his cloak. Fatigue wrapped around him. Loneliness followed his every step. Just when he thought things could not worsen, he saw a glow ahead, a warm light piercing the curtain of rain. A large, radiant castle stood in the heart of the dark forest, shining like an oasis of life amid the cold wilderness. He did not know that stepping through its gates would change not only his fate, but Beauty's entire life, and that this new chapter, mysterious, enchanting, and touched with moonlit gentleness, was just about to begin. Part 4. The Mysterious Castle and the Rose of Destiny. The rain in the forest grew heavier. Each drop struck striking like a cold needle sinking through the fabric of the merchant's worn cloak. He urged his horse forward, but the night fell too quickly. The forest path twisted unpredictably, and thunder murmured in the distance like a warning whispered by nature itself. Just as he felt his strength ebbing, a faint light flickered through the rain. At first it seemed like a small lantern behind a window, but as he approached, the glow expanded, revealing an enormous castle, grand, luminous, completely out of place in the desolate, stormy woods. The heavy iron gate creaked open by itself. No servants, no guards, only a pathway paved with stone, shining under rows of warm golden lamps. The light was gentle as candle flame, soft enough to melt the exhaustion beneath his cold, aching bones. Inside the grand hall, he found no one, no footsteps, no distant voices. Yet the chandeliers glowed with steady light. The fireplace crackled with a welcoming fire, and a grand meal waited on a long table prepared as though someone knew he was coming. The merchant stood motionless. His legs trembled from fatigue. The cold had seeped deep into his bones, but the warmth of the hall, the dancing firelight, the gentle heat drifting through the room felt like an embrace from an invisible host. At last, his voice slipped out in a whisper. "If this is someone's kindness, please know I am grateful." There was no answer, only the sound of rain tapping against the windows. He sat and took a few spoonfuls of hot soup. Warmth spread through him, loosening the tightness in his chest. A quiet calm settled into his mind, soft as sleep brushing against his thoughts. After dinner, he climbed the wide staircase to the upper floor. There, a room awaited him, clean sheets, a thick, soft blanket, and a lamp that glowed like honey behind a sheer curtain. With no strength left to question this silent generosity, he lay down. That night, he slept more deeply than he had since the day his family lost everything. When morning came, he awoke feeling lighter, warmer. His old clothes had been replaced by a dry, comfortable robe. A warm breakfast waited downstairs. Fresh bread, fragrant tea that smelled like early dew. Once again, Not a single soul appeared. Gratitude mixed with unease. How could a place so bright be so silent? As he prepared to leave, he remembered Beauty's request, the one wish he couldn't fulfill, the one promise pressing most heavily upon his heart. And then he saw it. Along the path outside the castle, through a veil of morning mist, grew a rose bush unlike any he had ever seen. The petals were red as velvet, shimmering with dew, unfolding with a warmth that defied the cold season. He approached slowly, breath held, no signs forbidding entry, no caretaker in sight, only the soft rustle of leaves and the delicate fragrance of roses drifting into the air. Thinking of Beauty, her gentle smile, her quiet joy, he reached out and picked a single rose. The moment the stem snapped, the ground quivered. A deep roar thundered behind him, heavy, furious, shaking the air. He turned and froze. A towering creature stood before him. Its face was fierce like a wild beast, yet it stood upright like a man. "Thief!" the beast roared, voice echoing like rocks collapsing down a mountain. "I saved your life, fed you, sheltered you, and you repay me by stealing my roses?" The merchant dropped the rose in terror, words stumbling out of his trembling lips. I only wish to bring a rose to my youngest daughter." At the mention of Beauty, the beast's fury deepened. "You will pay for this. Your life belongs to me." The merchant fell to his knees, tears spilling down his face. He did not fear death, but he feared leaving his children alone, without their last source of strength. "Please, take anything you wish. Only let me return to my family." Silence fell, heavy as dusk, settling over the forest. Then the beast spoke, slower, deeper, as though each word echoed from the heart of a cavern. "I will spare your life, only if one of your daughters willingly comes to live with me in your place." The merchant's heart shattered, but as he looked at the crimson rose lying at the beast's feet, he knew the choice was no longer his to make. And so began the invisible promise, one that would lead Beauty into a strange, wondrous world, mysterious, yet tender in its own quiet way. Part 5. The Fateful Bargain and Beauty's Choice. Evening had nearly fallen when the merchant left the castle. His horse moved slowly, as though it understood the weight on his heart. The rain had stopped, but a cold wind seeped through every layer of his clothing. The rose he had picked for Beauty rested inside his coat, but somehow it seemed to lose its charm in the bitter, restless wind. In his mind, the beast's words echoed again and again. One of your daughters must willingly come to live with me. Tears streamed down his weathered face. He wasn't afraid for his own life. He was terrified of choosing between his children. And yet, deep inside, he knew the choice was no longer his to make. It would rest on the hearts of his daughters. When he finally reached the small cottage, the night was deep. A warm yellow glow spilled through the window, a silent welcome home. His children were awake, anxiously waiting. None of them could sleep without knowing what had happened on his journey. Beauty rushed to him the moment he stepped inside. Father, are you all right? You were gone so long, I was so worried. Her voice flowed into him like warm water, easing the tightness in his chest. He sank into his familiar wooden chair, eyes heavy with the weight of what he needed to say. The two older sisters immediately asked about the clothes, the jewels, the gifts they had requested. But the merchant shook his head. Everything is gone. There is nothing left. One quote. One quote. One quote. One quote. Then he placed the rose, slightly wilted but still glowing faintly red, onto the table. This is the only gift I could bring home. Beauty looked at the rose. Though it had faded, its color still lingered like a quiet heartbeat. She smiled softly, as though it were the most precious thing in the world. Thank you, Father. I love it. Her smile pierced straight into her father's heart. He could not hide the truth any longer. With trembling voice, he told them everything. The forest, the castle, the garden of roses, and the terrifying demand of the beast. Silence fell over the room. Only the wind whispered through the cracks in the walls. The older sisters burst into tears, accusing, "Why did you pick that rose? Why bring it to Beauty? Now look at what's happened." Beauty shook her head gently, her voice steady. "No one is to blame. What's done is done. Now we must find a way forward." The father spoke, his voice heavy as stone. "I will return to the beast. If needed, I will give my life." "No!" Beauty stood up, her voice sharp with resolve. "You cannot leave your children alone. I won't allow it. Resins. And I won't." Her family stared at her. She looked different in that moment. Strong, luminous, every bit the gentle light she carried within. "I will go," she said clearly. The merchant gasped. "No, I forbid it. You are the only comfort I have left. I cannot let you give your life to a monster." Beauty took his rough, tired hand in hers. "Father, I don't feel like I'm giving anything up. I feel I'm doing the right thing. If I can save you, then that is what I want most." Her voice was soft as night breeze, calming the room. Even her brothers could say nothing. Her sisters looked away, unable to hide the flicker of relief that the burden would not fall on them. The merchant finally gave up trying to stop her. He pulled her into his arms, his heart breaking and full of admiration all at once. "My sweet child, you deserve happiness. I only fear for you." Beauty touched his shoulder gently. "Don't be afraid, Father. I believe something good is waiting for me somewhere in all of this." Her eyes shimmered with quiet certainty. "I truly believe everything will be all right." It was a tender faith, like taking a deep breath in the dark and trusting the sunrise is still coming. The next morning, before the sky fully brightened, Beauty prepared her small bundle, just a few simple clothes, and her favorite book. She paused to look around the little home that had held so many peaceful days. A soft breeze brushed past her, carrying a feeling almost like good luck. And so her journey began, toward a place strange and beautiful, a place that had been waiting for her for a very long time. Part 6. Beauty arrives at the castle of the beast, That morning, with the sun still hiding behind a veil of mist, Beauty and her father set out. The cool dawn air flushed her cheeks pink. She sat upright on the horse, holding the reins lightly, while her father walked beside her, glancing up at her with a mixture of pride and quiet sorrow. The road into the forest appeared before them. Tall trees stood like ancient guards, their trunks covered in moss, their leaves falling softly like whispered farewells. Each step deeper into the forest carried them closer to the fate awaiting Beauty. She didn't speak. She simply listened to the wind threading through leaves, to the soft breaths of the horse, to the steady beat of her own heart. There was fear inside her, yes, but also a calm intuition, a gentle sense that somehow everything would unfold as it should. When they reached the towering gates of the castle, the merchant froze. The black iron gates rose toward the sky, intricate in design, majestic and intimidating. Though no guard stood by, the gates opened silently, as if the castle had been expecting them. Beauty touched her father's arm, her voice tender. "Don't worry, I'll be all right." Her words were warm as early sunlight, soothing her father's heart. He squeezed her hand, holding on to the moment before he would have to let go. They walked into the courtyard. The golden lights lining the pathway shimmered again, just as they had for the merchant before, as though the castle recognized them. The grand hall was just as he remembered. Radiant chandeliers, soft honey-colored light spilling down, a feast set on the long table, untouched and mysterious. Still no servants, no footsteps, no voice, only perfect, inexplicable hospitality. Then heavy footsteps echoed from the shadows. The merchant tightened his grip on Beauty's hand. Each step grew louder, as though the ground itself beat like a drum. Finally, the beast emerged. The lantern light struck his massive form. The wild features, the deep-set eyes, the sharp glint of his teeth. He was both powerful and frightening. Yet Beauty noticed something else in his eyes. A shadow of sorrow, an echo of loneliness, something she could not name. The beast's deep voice filled the hall. "You have returned. as promised. The merchant trembled. Please, keep your word. My daughter comes willingly. The beast turned to Beauty. His gaze weighed her, tested her. But strangely, it did not frighten her. She bowed slightly. Sir, I have come in my father's place. The beast paused, then said, Very well, but you, he looked at the merchant, must leave immediately and never return. The father cried out, holding Beauty tightly, My child, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Beauty squeezed his hand. Her words soft as a lullaby. Don't be sad. I'll be fine. I promise I'll be strong. She then looked at the beast. Please, allow my father to say goodbye. The beast nodded. In that brief gesture, something in his eyes softened. After a painful farewell, the merchant left the castle with a heart torn apart. The heavy gates closed behind him, their echo confirming that Beauty's path had truly begun. The beast stepped toward her, keeping a respectful distance. Do not fear. You will not be harmed here. Come with me. Beauty nodded. Fear and curiosity wove together inside her like two gentle currents. She followed the beast through a long hallway lined with old paintings, their silent faces watching her with solemn eyes. Soft, moon-colored light filled the corridor, calm and inviting, as though the castle itself was whispering reassurance. The beast opened a door carved with golden flowers. Beauty gasped. Inside was a beautiful room, a grand bed with soft linens, long flowing curtains, and shelves filled with books she had only ever dreamed of touching. It felt as though the castle already knew her heart. This will be your room, the beast said. Rest. Everything in this castle is yours. Never pardons. Then he left her alone. Beauty walked slowly to the window. Outside, the garden glowed under pale moonlight, flowers shimmering as though dusted in silver. The sight eased something deep inside her. She breathed in softly. There was strangeness here, but also a quiet, undeniable peace. And in that moment, Beauty understood. Her journey would be filled with challenges, but somewhere in the shadows of this place, something good, something long awaited, was gently calling for her. Part 7. Beauty's first days in the castle and her first dinner with the beast. The next morning, when sunlight still hid behind the treetops, Beauty awoke in a room that felt as soft and dreamlike as a cloud. Gentle golden threads of early light slipped through the sheer curtains, falling onto the floor in quiet, delicate strokes. The air carried a scent she could not quite name, something like fresh grass mixed with a whisper of honey, soothing in a way that made her want to breathe deeper and let her whole body relax into calm. She sat up, feeling the smooth blanket slide off her shoulders. The room around her looked even more enchanting in daylight-embroidered curtains. A cream-colored sofa, soft as drifting snow. Tall shelves filled with fairy tales and crisp blank books. There was something almost tender in the way everything had been arranged, as though someone had prepared this space just for her. When Beauty stepped into the bathing room, warm water was already waiting, perfectly ready. As if an invisible hand understood her needs before she spoke them. All these small kindnesses softened her heart, feeling nothing like the fear she had once imagined when thinking of a beast hidden in the dark. The first day passed in a strange, peaceful stillness. Beauty wandered through the vast gardens behind the castle gardens, overflowing with blooms in every shade. Though there were no servants, no gardeners in sight, everything grew beautifully, as if nature itself had chosen this place to flourish. She found a still pond, smooth as glass, reflecting the pale sky and drifting clouds. When she dipped her fingers into the cool water, the gentle sensation made her exhale softly, like a sigh that carried away her worries. Still, no matter how lovely her surroundings, a quiet ache pulsed inside her. What is Father doing now? Has he eaten? Is he sleeping well without me there? The thoughts felt like ripples on the pond, tiny, tender disturbances that reminded her how far she was from her loved ones. When evening settled, shadows draping themselves over the stone walls, Beauty was guided by some unseen presence to the grand hall. Once again, chandeliers glowed bright, and the long table held a warm, inviting meal. Beauty stood at the end of the table, her heart beating a little faster. Tonight, she would meet the beast properly for the first time. Footsteps echoed behind her, heavy, slow, almost rhythmic. The beast appeared, bathed in the soft light of the largest chandelier. He looked larger, more formidable than ever. Massive form, shadowed eyes, sharp features. Yet within those eyes, Beauty noticed it again. A softness hiding deep within. A sadness she could not quite name. His voice rumbled through the hall. I hope your day was pleasant. As Muncher gathers, Beauty bowed her head slightly. It was. Thank you. The castle is very beautiful. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. He was not used to gentle words. They sat. The beast kept a respectful distance, careful not to overwhelm her. The quiet sounds of cutlery, the soft crackling of the fire, filled the silence. After a while, he asked, "Is the food to your liking?" Beauty smiled softly. "It's very good. Thank you for preparing it." The beast watched her, unsure, almost shy. "I am glad you feel comfortable." A gentle pause settled between them, not awkward, but peaceful, like resting after a long day. Then the beast asked, "Beauty, are you afraid of me?" She looked up, her eyes clear as the morning pond. "I was at first, but now you don't seem as frightening as your appearance suggests." The beast lowered his head slightly, and in that moment, a faint glimmer, like the first spark of a tiny flame, lit in his eyes. Dinner ended quietly. But before Beauty could stand, the beast spoke again, voice deep and uncertain. "Beauty, would you be willing to marry me?" The question hung in the air like a distant echo. Beauty froze, exhaling softly. "I'm sorry, I cannot." The beast lowered his gaze. "I understand." He did not roar or rage. Instead, he stepped away, his footsteps heavy, but no longer terrifying. Beauty watched him go, and felt her heart soften without knowing why. That night, as she lay beneath her warm blanket, the faint scent of flowers drifted through the window. She closed her eyes, her breath slowing, and whispered to herself, "Perhaps the beast is not who I believed him to be." And so, Beauty's first night in the castle ended not in fear, but in a quiet warmth, as though the castle itself were whispering her into sleep. Part 8. 3 months with the beast, and the gentle shift in Beauty's heart. The days that followed drifted like soft petals carried by a breeze, slow, peaceful, and filled with small surprises that made Beauty feel lighter, as though her heart were floating on calm water. Each morning, the gentle light of dawn brushed her window, illuminating droplets of dew glistening on rose petals like tiny jewels. The early breeze brought hints of jasmine and wild roses, scents so delicate they made her close her eyes just to savor the quiet joy they carried. Beauty spent her mornings reading, writing little thoughts on parchment, or strolling through the garden. She discovered new corners each day, a patch of blooming violets, an old stone bench beneath an ancient tree, a winding path that led to the still lake where the sky rested perfectly on the surface. Whatever she needed seemed to appear before she even called for it. A cloak when the air cooled, a warm cup of fragrant tea at dusk, a soft lantern lighting her path as evening fell. It felt as though the castle itself was caring for her, silently, gently. As for the beast, he appeared every night at exactly 9, never late, never early. At first, those heavy footsteps unsettled her, but soon she realized he approached with caution, not threat. He always kept a respectful distance. His voice, though deep, never rose in anger. They dined together in the soft glow of candlelight. The beast ate little, sometimes hardly at all, simply sitting quietly while she spoke. And when she did, his eyes, once frightening, filled with an earnest attentiveness that surprised her. He often asked, "How was your day?" And Beauty would tell him about the flowers she saw, the books she read, a verse that calmed her heart. The beast listened, not always knowing what to say in return, but trying, reaching, learning the gentle world she lived in. One evening, he began to share pieces of his past fragmented memories, a mysterious curse, the loneliness that had stretched across years. His voice grew slow and heavy, carrying a sorrow deep enough to dim the room. Beauty felt something shift inside her. Behind the fierce appearance was a heart that had endured more pain than she could imagine. A heart longing not for admiration, but simply for kindness. Her fear dissolved, replaced by a warm understanding, like the comfort of sitting beside a fire on a cold night, knowing the flames will not burn you. One night, the beast asked quietly, "Do I make you uncomfortable?" Beauty set down her fork and met his gaze. "No, I think you're trying to make this a kind place for me, and I appreciate that." The beast bowed his head, touched in a way no one had ever made him feel. And every night, as though it were part of a ritual he could not abandon, he asked, "Beauty, will you marry me?" And every night she softly declined, "I care for you, but I cannot." The beast never pressed, never grew angry. He simply accepted her answer. Sadness settling in his eyes like dusk settling over the land. Beauty felt her heart soften a little more each time. And so 3 months passed, quiet, steady, like a clear stream flowing over smooth stone. The beast's presence became something familiar, no longer frightening. Beauty found herself waiting for his footsteps each night, because he was someone who listened. Truly listened. Then one gentle afternoon, while reading by the window, Beauty realized something simple, yet profound. The beast no longer frightened her at all. His form was the same. Large, wild, imposing, but the heart she now saw was kind, patient, and slowly, quietly healing. Beauty did not know what the future held, but for the first time since leaving home, she did not feel alone. Part 9. Homesickness and Beauty's wish to return home. 3 months passed in the castle like pages turned slowly and gently. Each day felt peaceful, wrapped in soft light like a silk scarf laid across the sky. And yet, no matter how lovely and serene everything was, A small corner of Beauty's heart still held a quiet ache, one that grew day by day. On misty mornings in the rose garden, she missed her father sipping warm tea on the porch. In the afternoons, when sunlight poured like honey through the stone hallways, she missed her brother's laughter. And every evening, before the beast arrived for dinner, she felt the tender echo of her father's kind eyes as he once listened to her read aloud. This longing was not painful, only steady, gentle, always present, like a hidden underground stream that never stopped flowing. One day, while walking under white blossoms falling like soft snow, Beauty paused for a long time. A breeze carried a faint fragrance, and she closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. In that stillness, she realized she had been away from home for too long. Her heart needed to see her father, to know he was well, to feel the comfort of his presence again. A tender yearning rose within her, a yearning to return home, even just for a few days. That evening, when the beast arrived as usual, the candlelight cast his shadow across the wall, long and dark. But his face, fierce as it was, held something like quiet hope. He had grown accustomed to Beauty's gentle smile when she greeted him. To her, "I've had a peaceful day." To the softness in her eyes when she looked at him. They ate in silence for a while. Then Beauty lowered her spoon and lifted her gaze to him, her eyes shimmering like a night lake. "Sir, I would like to ask you something." The beast faltered, placing his plate down. "What is it?" Beauty gathered her courage with a soft breath. "I miss my father. I wish to visit him for a little while. Only a few days." The room became still, as though even the air had paused. The beast stared at her long, deep, unsure. In his eyes, she saw a quiet struggle between wanting to keep her with him and fearing he would hurt her by doing so. Finally, he spoke. His voice low and heavy, falling like stones deep into the earth. "You wish to leave me?" Beauty shook her head quickly. "No, it's not that. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. But my father is old. I cannot rest knowing nothing of his well-being. I only ask for a week. Silence wrapped the room again. The beast bowed his head, his large hands tightening. Beauty's heart softened. Somehow, he no longer looked frightening. He looked like someone trying desperately to hold on to something precious without breaking it. After a long moment, the beast said softly, "I agree." Beauty exhaled in relief, but he wasn't finished. "But you must promise you will return on the exact day. If you are even one day late, I will." His voice trembled. "I will die of sorrow." Beauty froze. The words were not a threat. They trembled with a truth so deep it shook her heart. "I promise," she whispered gently. "I will come back to you in exactly 1 week." The beast handed her a ring. "When you wish to return to this castle, simply place the ring on your bedside table. It will bring you back." Beauty accepted the ring, feeling a strange warmth settle into her palm. A warmth not frightening, but soft and kind. As she walked back to her room that night, the beast stood watching her, his shadow large against the wall, but his eyes filled with a sorrow as gentle as the sky before rain. At dawn the next morning, Beauty awoke in her small country bedroom. The wooden bed, the simple curtains, the familiar scent of home, all of it wrapped around her heart with tender familiarity. Her father entered, stunned as though he were dreaming. They embraced for a long, long time, letting all the months of worry melt away in each other's arms. In that moment, Beauty felt as though an angel had touched her heart. But far away, in the vast, lonely castle, another heart was aching, counting the days until she returned. Part 10. The reunion, and the seed of jealousy takes root. Beauty's return home was filled with emotion. The little cottage seemed warmer than ever. Her father held her tightly, his old trembling hands overflowing with relief. The scent of aged wood, the familiar warmth of the house, the morning birds singing outside. Everything pressed gently into her heart, like a childhood memory restored. Her brothers rejoiced with unrestrained happiness. Her sisters, however, stared in shock. Beauty looked different, softer, brighter, radiant, in a way they had never seen. Her hair seemed silkier, her skin clearer, her eyes deeper and calmer, as though the castle had wrapped her in a glow they could not explain. Her father cupped her hands. "My dear child, you look so well. I feared." "Don't worry, Father," Beauty said with a smile, warm as morning light. "I've been treated very kindly." Her sisters exchanged glances tinged with something sharp. In their minds, Beauty should have been suffering with the beast, but she was flourishing. Beauty spoke about the gardens, her cozy room, the peaceful dinners. Every word she said carried truth and tranquility, and strangely, that tranquility irritated her sisters. They had always been the admired ones, the center of attention, while Beauty was the quiet, gentle one. Now she returned, glowing, and it unsettled them. The next days were filled with joy for Beauty. She cared for her father, fixed the cottage, cooked with love. Her heart felt refreshed, as though she had stepped into a warm spring. But the joy was hers alone. Her sisters began to notice how softly she spoke of the beast, how her voice warmed slightly when she mentioned him, how a faraway look appeared in her eyes. Jealousy sprouted in their hearts, small at first, then curling like vines growing under a quiet porch. "She's living too comfortably," one sister murmured. "Yes, and that beast seems to spoil her." Who would have thought? A tiny, dark seed took root. By the end of the first week, Beauty felt uneasy. Though her father wanted her to stay longer, she remembered her promise. Every night before sleeping, she looked at the ring the beast had given her. It glowed softly, a gentle reminder that the castle was waiting for her. But her sisters did not want her to return. Seeing Beauty adored, cherished, made bitterness rise within them, and a cruel thought whispered in their minds. If Beauty returns late, the beast might be angry. He might punish her. The idea strangely pleased them. So each day they whispered, "You just got home. Stay a little longer. Father will miss you if you leave too soon. You don't do anything at the castle anyway. It's the same as staying here. Beauty softened. She looked at her father, at their small home, at the rare warmth of being together, and her heart wavered. Maybe I could stay just a bit longer, she asked her father. He smiled gently. If that is what you want, but you remember your promise to the beast, yes? Beauty nodded, but inside her heart, a soft confusion stirred. She believed she could manage an extra day. Just one more day. But one day more stretched into another, and another. Her sisters quietly rejoiced. As Beauty drifted further from her promise, what she did not know was this. Each passing night, the beast's heart grew dimmer. He walked the halls alone, waiting for footsteps that never came. He sat at the dinner table, staring at meals gone cold, and the sorrow in his eyes deepened like a fading moon. One night, Beauty dreamed of him. In the dream, the beast lay in the garden, his eyes filled with unbearable sadness. Beauty, he whispered, voice trembling. Have you forgotten your promise? I cannot endure this. She woke with a gasp. Her heart pounded like thunder in her chest. In that instant, she understood. She had waited too long. She had to return immediately. Part 11 Beauty returns to the castle and finds the beast dying. The moment Beauty jolted awake from her strange dream, her heart tightened as though an invisible hand had seized it. The image of the beast lying motionless in a withered garden burned sharply in her mind. His weak voice, I cannot endure this, lingered like a cold wind drifting through her room. Without wasting even a heartbeat, she rose from her bed. Outside, dawn had not yet broken. Mist clung to the window like a thin veil, but nothing mattered to Beauty now except one unmistakable truth. She had to return to the castle immediately. She placed the beast's ring on the table just as he had told her. A soft glow spread from the ring, thin as morning fog, warm as the first breath of day. And in a single heartbeat, the world around her shifted and disappeared. When Beauty opened her eyes, she stood in her familiar room within the castle. But something had changed. The warmth that once filled the space was gone. The lights that usually glowed gently were dim, as if grief had settled into the very walls. Beauty rushed out, running down the long corridor. Her footsteps echoed urgently against the cold stone, filling the silence that seemed unnaturally heavy. "Beast!" she called, her voice trembling, but no answer came. Only the hollow sound of her own voice fading into emptiness. She raced into the grand hall. The dinner table stood exactly as before, but untouched, cold, abandoned. No candles burned. No heavy footsteps approached. No pair of sorrowful eyes waited for her at the far end. Fear spread through her body like ice. Then she ran toward the garden, the very garden she had seen in her dream. As she stepped outside, she stopped abruptly. The scene before her stole her breath. The once blooming garden was now wilted and gray. The roses drooped, the leaves had fallen, and the air felt drained of life. The sky above was dull, muted, as though nature itself were grieving. And at the center of the garden, beneath the largest tree, the beast lay still. His great form seemed smaller, now fragile, lonely, fading. Beauty fell to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as they touched his large, once powerful hands, now cold as stone. "Beast! Beast! Can you hear me?" she cried, her voice breaking. His eyes opened slowly, clouded, dim, like the last flicker of a dying candle. But when he saw Beauty, a faint glimmer appeared in his gaze. Soft as a thread of light. "Beauty, you have returned." His voice was so faint she had to lean close to hear him. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I'm late," she sobbed, gripping his hand tightly. "Please, please don't leave me." The beast shook his head weakly. "I knew you would return. I always believed so, but I have no strength left." "No!" Beauty cried, tears spilling onto his hand. "You cannot leave me. I don't know why, but my heart cannot bear the thought of losing you." 432 were examples. The beast looked at her, his fading eyes filled with tenderness deeper than words. You are kind, Beauty, kinder than anyone I have ever known. I am grateful to see you one last time. Beauty bent over him, tears falling like warm rain onto his cooling skin. Beast, please, don't leave me. Her voice softened, shaken, intimate. I don't know when it began, but I know this now. I care for you more than anyone. His breath grew heavier, fragile as dying wind. Beauty panicked, holding him close. I beg you, don't die. I love you, do you hear me? I love you! The words slipped from her lips like truth breaking free. Truth her heart had whispered for so long without naming it. And at that very moment, the ground beneath them stirred. A warm, glowing light burst forth, soft yet powerful, gentle yet bright. Beauty opened her eyes wide, stunned, as the light wrapped around the beast. He was changing. Part 12. The curse breaks, and a heart awakens. The warm light radiated from where the beast lay, spreading outward in gentle waves. It was not harsh or blinding. It was soft, like the rising sun lifting the morning mist. It felt tender, comforting, like the warmth of a blanket around tired shoulders in winter. Beauty stepped back slightly, but her hand never left his. She held on tightly, afraid to lose him, even for a breath. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. The light circled around the beast, swirling in soft ribbons. The thick fur on his body began to dissolve into the light. His heavy claws faded. His labored breathing softened. Even the ground beneath them trembled gently, as if the earth itself exhaled. Beauty covered her mouth, eyes stinging with emotion. Beast, are you? She couldn't finish. The sight before her was too miraculous, too beautiful. The beast's massive form grew smaller, lighter. The harsh lines of his face softened into human contours. The last burst of light shimmered around them like drifting white petals. And then, stillness, but not the stillness of death. A peaceful, glowing stillness, like the very first moment of a new life, Beauty gasped. Lying before her was no longer the beast, but a young man, handsome, gentle, luminous as moonlight on a quiet lake. His brown hair fell softly across his forehead. His eyes, the same eyes she had looked into so many times, now clear, bright, deep as a star-filled sky. Those eyes held every emotion she had sensed behind the beast's fearsome form. Kindness, gratitude, and love. He smiled, a soft, trembling smile that made her heart flutter. Beauty. His voice was warm, melodic, like the soft strum of an ancient harp played with tenderness. It's me. I'm no longer the beast. Beauty's breath caught. You? Who are you? He sat up slowly. Light from the sky washed over him, wrapping him in a soft halo. I am the beast, or rather, I was. His voice thickened with emotion. The man you saved with your love. Beauty shook her head in disbelief. This can't be. He gently took her hand, the hand he had always longed to hold. A curse bound me long ago. I was to remain a beast until someone saw my true heart and loved me sincerely. His eyes met hers, deep, luminous. And that person was you, Beauty. Your confession freed me. Tears finally spilled down Beauty's cheeks, not from sorrow, but from a wave of joy and relief so strong it made her tremble. I truly saved you? She whispered. No. He said softly, brushing a tear from her cheek. You saved us both. At that moment, the garden awakened. Wilted flowers lifted their heads, opening into vibrant blooms once more. Leaves shimmered with new life. Sunlight broke through the clouds, scattering golden droplets across the ground. A warm breeze lifted Beauty's hair, as though nature itself sang in celebration. When she opened her eyes again, the young man still watched her, his gaze tender, radiant. Beauty, he said gently, will you marry me? This time, the question carried no desperation, no sorrow, only an invitation, warm and hopeful, heart speaking to heart. Beauty touched her chest, feeling her heart beat slow, full, overflowing. She smiled, a soft, moonlit smile. Yes, I will. And in that moment, birds began to sing, the sky brightened, and the castle, from its deepest stones to its highest towers, awoke from its long, enchanted sleep. Part 13. The castle awakens, and a new chapter begins for Beauty. The very moment Beauty whispered, "Yes, I will," a gentle miracle unfurled through the garden, then swept into every stone, every wall, every quiet room of the castle. It was as though a sleeping force beneath the earth had stirred awake, rising slowly, tenderly, yet with a quiet power that reached every corner of the land. The once withered garden shivered. Flower petals shifted their colors, then burst into bloom like soft, silent fireworks. Red roses, pure white jasmine, lavender as purple as twilight, each blossom opened as if smiling. A warm breeze drifted through, soft as a blessing. Sunlight pierced through the treetops, scattering golden fragments around them. Beauty stood in the prince's arms, the very man who had once been the beast, and for a moment she felt the world being born again. In his eyes, she saw gratitude, joy, and a gentle love deeper than anything she had ever known. When they stepped into the castle, Beauty gasped. The stone walls, once gray and somber, now glowed a pale honey gold. The long hallway unfurled into a rich red carpet. Chandeliers lit themselves, scattering thousands of soft, star-like lights across the room. Then, the most wondrous thing happened. From doorways, corridors, and staircases, people began to appear. Not strangers, but the very souls who had once been enchanted into objects. There was the elderly man with a silver beard, once the grandfather clock. There was the tiny maid, once the teapot. A young man stepped forward once, the bright candle holder who had lit their evenings. They smiled, waved, and wept with joy. A kind-looking woman bowed to the prince. "Your Highness, the curse is broken, and all thanks to this young lady." Beauty's hand tightened around the prince's, a gentle bond that felt natural and unbreakable. The prince turned to her. "You didn't just save me," he said softly. "You saved everyone in this castle." Beauty shook her head. I only followed my heart. And because of that heart, he whispered, you changed an entire world. The castle filled with life like a celebration awakening after years of silence. Footsteps echoed cheerfully. Laughter bubbled through hallways. Windows opened wide to welcome fresh air and sunlight. White curtains fluttered lightly, carrying the scent of the revived garden into every room. Servants embraced one another in delight. Their grateful eyes turned to Beauty, as if she were the candle that had reignited all their hope. That evening, the grand hall was transformed. Golden ribbons draped gently from the ceiling. Hundreds of candles glowed warmly. A celebration began not to boast, but to welcome the beginning of Beauty's and the prince's new life. When the music began soft, flowing, like a river of light, the prince offered Beauty his hand. His touch was warm and steady, as if to say, I am here, with you, always. They danced, their steps light and effortless, moving as one, with the gentle melody floating through the room. By the time the music faded, Beauty felt her heart melt into a serene happiness. The prince leaned close. Beauty, you brought life back to this place. I will never be able to thank you enough. She smiled gently. I found myself here. Perhaps it was all meant to be. From that day on, the castle became a home filled with light and laughter. Beauty was welcomed not as royalty, but as someone cherished for her pure kindness. She strolled through the gardens, read in the vast library filled with thousands of books, and spent countless moments speaking with the servants who had been restored. Every day flowed softly, like a silk ribbon drifting through warm air, and always at her side, the prince, warm, sincere, endlessly grateful. Together, they watched the sunrise. Together, they shared quiet tea in the afternoons. Together, they wove little stories into their days, each one deepening the thread between their hearts. And Beauty knew, with every breath, the tale of her and the beast, now the prince, was far from ending. It was only beginning. A new chapter glowed before them, full of light, hope, and love, as gentle as the first morning sun. Part 14. The Sunrise Wedding, and a Beautiful Lesson. After days filled with joy and awakening, a serene morning was chosen for Beauty and the prince's wedding. The sky was clear as polished crystal. Sunlight dripped onto the garden like drops of pure gold, a gift from nature itself. The castle buzzed with excitement, not frantic, but glowing with warmth. Those who had once been enchanted now wore their finest clothes, faces shining with hope for a bright future. Candles flickered softly along the hallways. White curtains billowed in gentle waves. Every flower seemed to bloom a little wider, as if offering its blessing. Beauty stood before a tall mirror in a spacious room. Her wedding dress floated around her like soft clouds. Layers of sheer white fabric cascaded gracefully, giving her the look of someone carved from moonlight and dawn. A crown of white roses, the flower that had started everything, rested on her hair. She gazed into her own reflection. In her eyes shone kindness, the quiet maturity of someone who had walked through trials, and a luminous softness, the glow of someone who now loved deeply and truly. She placed a hand over her heart. "If not for my heart," she whispered, "I would never have come this far." When Beauty stepped into the garden, everyone rose. The path to the altar was lined with white and lavender flowers, their fragrance delicate as early morning mist. Music began, gentle, slow, like a breeze passing through leaves at dawn. At the end of the path, the prince waited. His eyes lit up the moment he saw Beauty. In that look, there was no kingdom, no castle, no world, only her. Beauty walked slowly, her steps floating, as though the earth itself had softened beneath her feet. When she placed her hand in his touch was steady and warm, a quiet vow of forever. The ceremony unfolded beneath a sky filled with soft sunshine. The officiant's warm voice blended with the wind, each word settling gently into every heart present. When it was time for vows, the prince spoke first. "Beauty, you freed me from my own darkness. From the moment I saw your kindness, my heart found hope again. From today on, I vow to love you with every bit of sincerity within me." Beauty's eyes shimmered. "You showed me that love is not found in appearances, but in the truth of a heart. Had I not listened to mine, I would never have known who you truly were. I promise to always see you with compassion, and to love you with the truest part of myself." They held each other's hands. Soft applause rippled through the garden, gentle, joyful. A warm breeze swept in, lifting petals into the air, petals that danced like blessings from the sky. The celebration that followed was filled with laughter and music. Paper lanterns glowed softly above the garden, light as floating embers of gold. Beauty and the prince sat side by side, sometimes speaking, sometimes simply watching the scene. with full hearts, for some happiness requires no words, only presence. As the sun dipped into the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and amber, the prince whispered, "Beauty, do you regret choosing me?" Beauty smiled a smile warm enough to melt the last shadow of doubt. "Never. All goodness begins with kindness, and because of this choice, I have found the life my heart belongs to." The prince held her hand tightly, like a treasure he would guard forever. And so their story became a gentle lesson passed down for generations, that appearances are but a thin garment, that kindness can break any curse, that true love blooms when the heart learns to see beyond the surface, and that sometimes all it takes is one sincere, tender soul to bring light back to an entire world. Beauty and the prince lived happily in a castle where warmth never faded, where winds were always gentle, and where every heart was nourished by love as pure as the first sunrise of spring. Part 15. Beauty's Inner Lesson. When the castle had quieted into the soft stillness of night, Beauty sat on the wide balcony, where the wind drifted slowly, gently, as if it had come only to soothe her. Moonlight poured over the garden below, coating every branch and petal in a soft silver glow, a lullaby whispered by the night itself. Everything was wrapped in a peaceful silence so deep that Beauty needed only to breathe, just once, to feel her heart being held in comfort. She closed her eyes. The breeze wrapped around her shoulders like the tender hands of a loving mother. Her heartbeat slowed, deepened, eased, as though she were sinking into a long, healing rest. Life has taken me on such a long journey, she thought, only to bring me home to where my heart truly belongs. She remembered the early days in her tiny cottage, the quiet chores she did with gentle patience, her father's silver hair blowing softly in the evening wind, the worries she carried for others more than for herself, and all the times she placed her heart into someone else's shoes so she could feel their sorrow. Each of those moments now seemed like small keys, unlocking the door that led her here, to a life warm as a quiet bedtime breath, soft as a thin blanket draped over tired shoulders, peaceful as the final exhale before drifting into dreams. Beauty smiled silently. Her whole journey was a journey back to the softness inside her own heart. She understood something now. There is no curse in this world that cannot be undone If a heart is soft enough, warm enough, and gentle enough to truly listen. The day she agreed to come to the castle, she did not yet love the beast, but her heart did not close. She carried within her a deep listening to his sorrow, to the heaviness in his breath, to the quiet grief between every dinner conversation. She had seen what others would have missed, a lonely heart, trying awkwardly, painfully to love, and it was her softness, simple, quiet, a softness as light as a sigh at night, that awakened the humanity sleeping inside him. A heart that is seen, accepted, loved, will always bloom again, like a flower reaching for sunlight, like a weary soul soothed by a beloved voice, like a still lake reflecting the clearest sky. Beauty opened her eyes, looking down at the moonlit garden. She exhaled a long, soft, gentle breath, as if releasing every last weight inside her. She understood now. Kindness, compassion, and a pure heart are not weakness. They are the quiet, enduring strength of humanity. They are like water flowing gently, flowing slowly yet able to soften even the sharpest stones of life. Beauty leaned her head against the railing, her eyes drifting closed in deep relaxation. If every heart carried just a little tenderness, she whispered, then no curse could last forever. And as if the night agreed, a warm breeze brushed her hair so soft it felt like a voice saying, rest now, sleep now, everything is safe. The prince stepped outside, wearing a light cloak. He stood beside Beauty, placing his hand quietly over hers. His presence radiated a warmth that reached straight into her heart. You're still awake? He asked, voice low and soothing. Beauty breathed slowly. I was thinking about everything, about the journey that brought me here. The prince smiled gently, his eyes calm as midnight lakes. Every journey leads you exactly where you were meant to be. Beauty nodded, her shoulders relaxing into the night. And I think the greatest lesson is simply learning to open the heart. When we open, love finds a way in. The prince squeezed her hand, warm as glowing embers on a cool night. You saved all of us, he whispered. And you saved yourself, too. Beauty closed her eyes again. The wind swept gently across her skin. Moonlight wrapped her like a soft blanket. Sleep drifted through her limbs, slow, warm, tender like warm water, holding every muscle every breath, every heartbeat. And that was the final truth of her story. When the heart is soft enough, curses dissolve. When the heart is warm enough, darkness fades. When the heart is gentle enough, love finds its way and blooms. Beauty rested her head on the prince's shoulder. Her journey had ended, and a new, sweeter journey was beginning. Soft as a deep dream, warm as quiet love, peaceful as morning light. Beauty closed her eyes, no effort, no thoughts. Sleep came to her like a thin blanket, drifting over her body, warm, soft, slow, gentle. Let go, sink down, sleep. There is nothing left to do. Above them, the stars dimmed, as though giving the night entirely to peace. And like all fairy tales that end in softness, the castle fell into a very deep, very kind sleep. Beauty slept. The prince slept. The flowers slept. The wind slept. Even the moon rested upon a bed of clouds. Only peace remained round, gentle, complete, holding the castle in the quiet embrace of the sky. A story closed, a new journey waited. But tonight, there is only sleep. Only calm, only breath flowing slow and quiet, carrying the heart gently into dreams. Part 16, a lullaby for you. And now, the story has come to an end. And you don't need to do anything anymore. Just breathe slowly, softly, letting your whole body loosen and melt into comfort. You are safe. You are held. You are wrapped in a soft, gentle space where all worries slide away like little leaves drifting across still water. No more effort, no more tension. Let your body rest. Let your mind soften. Let your heart be embraced with tenderness. You are beautiful. You are peaceful. You are worthy of unconditional love. Let your eyelids grow heavy, like petals closing in the night. Let your breath deepen, like a quiet lake under the dark sky. Every good thing is moving softly toward you, like warm wind on your skin, like a soft blanket around your body, like loving arms holding you near. You are never alone. You are protected. You are cherished. You are allowed to rest. Now, release, surrender. Let sweet sleep lift you gently, light, soft, drifting. I wish you a night that is deep, restful, and calm. Sleep now. Sleep sleep peacefully. Sleep in the gentle love surrounding you. Thank you for letting me stay with you tonight. The moment you fall asleep is the quietest, most beautiful, most deeply loved moment of your entire day. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be kind, and your whole being be at peace. Every cell in your body is resting now, healing, renewing, becoming stronger and softer at the same time. And every dream you enter tonight is warm, gentle, loving, sweet enough to make you smile. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. I love you.